Hello friends, I thought it would be fun today to talk about some recent acquisitions that I found in local and slightly less local bookstores. Hi, I'm Gala, thanks for coming by. If you are new here, we like to talk about books, and if you like books, you've come to the right place. So let's get started, shall we? So the first three books come from a smaller local bookshop, and this was my first time in there. They had a really nice selection, all kind of jumbled into the shelves. I didn't have a ton of time to look, but on the short bit of time that I did have, I found a couple nice things. The first is Hemingway's The Sun Also Rises, and this is a pretty common book, and I think probably his most famous, along with A Farewell to Arms. I haven't read either, but I just thought this Scribner cover was so gorgeous, right? Like, what a beautiful copy of the book. So it was not too expensive, and I really liked this edition, so I went for that, and I'm pretty excited to try this. I've read a short story collection from Hemingway, as well as Across the River and Into the Trees, one of his later novels. I read that earlier this year. Wasn't in love with it, but I am looking forward to trying one of his more popular books. And following that up, I grabbed two books from Carlos Fuentes. The first is Christopher Unborn in the Vintage International Edition, which I love these editions, and the other is The Hydra Head, and this is a Farrar Straus Giroux FSG. And I thought this was just gorgeous. You know when you look at a book and you say to yourself, I have no idea what this book is, I don't know what it's about, but I don't care, I know I need this book. It was one of those books for me. I have no idea what this is. I've heard Fuentes' name before, but I've never read him, and this book spoke to me, so I was really excited to pick this up, despite not knowing what it is. And I don't typically buy two books from the same writer if I haven't read them before, because, it's kind of sinking a lot into someone when you're not sure if you're actually interested. But this one, on the other hand, in the first place, I really like the Vintage International editions, and I think this is a beautiful book. And on top of that, this one actually did have a synopsis on the back, and it sounds very up my alley. It's roughly about a boy who's born on the 500th anniversary of Christopher Columbus's discovery of America, and how some weird things start happening on that anniversary. So this, just as some interesting speculative and historical fiction, sounds very up my alley, and this one was just too beautiful to pass up. Following that, my partner were in a small mountain town not far from where we live, and we found a tiny little thrift used shop that had books for 25 cents. I got a hat. She got some cool clothes for dirt cheap. And there were a couple books on the shelf that I wanted to pick up. The first is Plutarch's Makers of Rome, and I haven't read Plutarch before, but just getting more into Greek and Roman history and literature, so this is a really cool find. And the other was Mistress of Mistresses by E.R. Edison, which, let's just take a moment to appreciate Ballantine fantasy covers. These are just some of the most gorgeous covers I think I've ever seen. Man, they're beautiful, and I know they have The Lord of the Rings in a classic Ballantine as well. I believe Ballantine was the first American publisher for Lord of the Rings, and they have gorgeous covers of a similar ilk to these. And I picked this up, and I actually have the sequel to this book, A Fish Dinner in Mnemosyne, and it's a 3 but technically 4-part series of fantasy from Edison. This is technically book 1, and A Fish Dinner, which I already had, is book 2. There is a book 0, though, called The Worm Ouroboros, which I don't have yet. So I found this a couple of months ago in a little free library, and I didn't want to read it yet since it's book 2, technically book 3. And this being book 1, technically book 2, I still don't think I'm going to read these yet because I want to get book 0 first, The Worm Ouroboros. So I'm building it up. I'm excited to find these over time, not only because they're just so gorgeous, and I don't know what the series is really about, but I'm just willing to go for it, and the books are so cheap anyway, so I'm keeping my eye out for The Worm Ouroboros, and as well as book 4, which I don't know the name of that one, to complete the series off, and I'm really excited to read these when I actually have those. Following that up, about 2 weeks later, I wanted to treat myself one day, and I just decided to spend 2 hours in the big local bookstore, basically combing over every single shelf to go and find as much stuff as I was interested in. I wanted to treat myself, and I decided that was a good way to do it on a Friday night. That's how you know I'm interesting, because that's what I do on a Friday night. I go browse bookstores. So I grabbed a couple of books from this store. The first was Time's Arrow by Martin Amis. Again, Vintage International. You know me by now. I have never read Amis before, but I hear really good things. This was only a couple bucks, and it's a pretty slim volume, and I figured I'd just give them a go. Based on the synopsis on the back, it sounds like a very contradictory story in the way that it tells it and the way that it's narrated, so I'm really looking forward to giving this a try. Might try this for like a one-day read or something, since it's only about 160 pages. I also grabbed The True Deceiver by Tove Jansson, and I love these covers, especially on the NYRB Classics ones, because they always use her original illustrations. For anyone who doesn't know Tove Jansson, she's the creator of Moomins, Moomin Troll, Snufkin, all those beautiful stories, which I haven't read a ton of myself, but this is actually the second Jansson I've read, and I did already read this, so expect a little bit of a review for this in my reading wrap-up for the month. But yeah, this is, I won't talk too much about it, but Tove Jansson she's such a beautiful writer, and she is really cool with writing about seasons and introspective characters in these more adult works that she wrote in the later decades of her life. So stay tuned for that, but I was really, really glad to find this because I can't get enough of her. I also grabbed Barbara Kingsolver's Animal Vegetable Miracle, and if you've watched me at all before, you know I love Kingsolver. I think I've read 8 of her books now out of like 13. This is her next book chronologically for me. So I've read her first like 8 published works, and she's got like another 5. I've got 1 or 2 of them on the shelf. So I'm really glad to grab this because this is her next book for me chronologically, and because I only have 5 of her books left, I just kind of want to do them chronologically to finish out that bibliography. I've just been having fun going not entirely chronological with her, since I went out of order for several of the books that I've read, but now that I'm so close to finishing her bibliography, I do want to finish it out chronologically. So I'm really excited to find this because this is nonfiction, and she's had 2 other essay collections before this book. And I really liked the first essay collection, but that second essay collection, it's called Small Wonder, is one of my favorite books by her, and I love her fiction. She's primarily known for her fiction, but I really, really loved that collection of essays, so I'm very excited to read more of her nonfiction, because her nonfiction writing is so good too. And yeah, I know this is one of her most popular books, and I'm very excited to give this a try. I also grabbed 6 tragedies from Seneca, and now I don't know how many tragedies Seneca actually wrote. He is Roman. He was Roman. I haven't read a lot of Roman writers or a lot of Roman tragedy, but I've been reading a lot more Greek tragedy recently. I recently finished up The Plays of Sophocles, and I've been interested in more tragedy, and I don't really know what a Roman tragedy looks like when compared to a Greek tragedy. So I'm curious to read these and kind of see what that evolution looks like over time. And knowing the Oxford World's Classics editions, they always have really good introductions, really good notation. So I'm excited to give this a go and actually see what that looks like and how the history of tragedy has actually expanded over those hundreds of years. And the last from that bigger bookstore was the Prose Edda, Snorri Sturluson. And this is basically the wellspring for almost everything we have of Norse mythology, and I'm not an expert on Norse mythology, that's just what I understand of this book, but that's why I want to read it, because this is such an important text for understanding Norse myth. I've been really enjoying getting more into history and myth recently, as you can probably tell by some of my other recent acquisitions, so I'm very excited about this because this seems like a good translation. This copy was like $4 or $5, and I'm really excited because I don't know a lot about Norse myth, and anybody who reads One Piece, actually, this entire shelf behind me, anybody who reads One Piece and keeps up with it, the current story arc that the story is in, is heavily inspired by Norse myth. So I've been thinking a lot about Norse myth lately, and this was a really cool and relatively inexpensive find, so I'm excited to kind of learn more and understand Norse myth through the Prose Edda. Also, who can deny that Snorri Sturluson, if I'm saying that correctly, is just the best name ever. And finally, last week, my partner and I traveled to a city about an hour and a half north of where we live, and I did find a small little bookstore up there. It's kind of like a used book and record store, weird mishmash, but they had like just this beautiful, wacky ceiling to floor shelf in the back with, you know, when like cool home libraries have like the sliding ladder thing, which is a dream of mine to have someday in a big library room in a home, but it was like that, but it was just a ladder propped against the wall and it didn't look sturdy, so I was a little too scared to climb it, but thankfully I'm not too short and they had a step stool as well, so I was climbing up the shelves to kind of look at stuff in there. It was a really cool little store, and the shop attendant recognized that I was a Big Thief fan because I had the Big Thief ball cap on that I wear all the time, so we got chatting, but Anyway, it was a really sweet little store, and I found a couple of books there. The first was, and I hope I'm saying this right, my French pronunciation is not great, but it's Teresa Raquin by Émile Zola. And I read my first Zola late last year in 2024. I read Germinal, which I know that and this one are two of his more popular books. I don't even know what this one's about, but I loved Germinal. I thought it was such a good book, and he's so in depth with the way he discusses French peasantry and the working class in France during Revolution. And in Germinal, it's about miners in a small coal mining town. So I'm excited to try more from Zola, and I personally I love these old Bantam editions. I think they're so beautiful. I have Brave New World in an old Bantam like this as well, and they're just such gorgeous books, like really simple design, but like really effective, text blocking on the covers, and I'm really into the design of these covers. I just think they're so pretty. They're so legible and readable when you actually get into the pages of them. They have gorgeous cover images and gorgeous tones. They fade beautifully. So tactily, I think these are just gorgeous books, and I was really excited to find this because all of the books I found in the store were like $2 or $3 a piece. I also grabbed Suetonius's The 12 Caesars, and these Penguin editions, I think they're the UK Penguin editions. I could be wrong about that. Someone please correct me if I am. I've seen these a couple of times here and there. They're beautiful, man. They're just absolutely beautiful. These heavy, vibrant colors on the cover to really contrast with the coin. I'm really excited to read this, and I don't know, again, I haven't read Suetonius before, but this is also translated by Robert Graves, and for anyone who doesn't know that name, he is the writer of I, Claudius, and Claudius the God, the duology, about 1,000 pages long. It's sort of like a historical fiction from the point of view of the Emperor Claudius of ancient Rome. I read that duology last year, and it's one of my favorite books of all time now. If you are at all interested, oh my gosh, check that out. It's stunningly good. So knowing that he translated this is cool, and yeah, it's just such a beautiful edition that I was really, really excited to find this. And finally, I picked up Nabokov's Speak Memory. I am quite a big Nabokov fan. I've read about a half dozen of his books, several recently, and this is an autobiography from him. I think he wrote this in I want to say the 50s? Looks like the late 40s, like 1947. So this was a good ways into his career, if that is to be trusted. That's pre-Lolita. He wrote Lolita in 1955, and that really launched his career from there. He was able to quit teaching and just write full-time after that. So this is really cool. I hear nothing but good things about this, and as someone who's read a good number of his books, I still feel like I'm barely scratching the surface, because he has 20, 25 different works between fiction and short story and nonfiction. He has so much writing, and he also has translations and poetry and so many different things that I'm really excited to read this autobiography. I know it's really highly regarded in his bibliography, his full body of works, and I'm just excited to learn more about him from his own mouth. And that is all I have for you today. I really do appreciate you stopping by. Have you picked up any books recently? And if so, what was your favorite one? Let me know what you're reading in the comments below. Let me know if there's anything else you would like to hear from me. And if not, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.